What's up? In today's video, I'm gonna give you 5 tips for Hearthstone Battlegrounds that are rather advanced and next level. So what I mean by advanced and next level is these are tips that are probably rather unknown. So if you're just getting started with Battlegrounds or below 10k, it's very likely that you've never heard of any of these, and they will push you to that next level, hopefully. But if you're just barely getting started, these are not gonna have a big impact. I suggest you learn the basics first. I have a bunch of guides on those. And if you're already advanced and you go in the comments, oh, these are not next level, I knew these tips already, they're not unknown. Dude, I can't make a video about 5 tips that no one has ever heard of. That's just literally impossible. So if you know of some of these already, congrats, you're a pretty good player, I would say. So let's get started with the first one, and this one is about the Homunculus. So Homunculus is a 2/4 demon on tier 1. If you play it, you take 2 damage. Generally, when you play Homunculus, your opponents can play around it by repositioning and stuff like that on turn 1, or they can choose to buy a stronger unit so they don't lose the fight. Now, your health bar doesn't update, so if someone plays a Homunculus, it's gonna show like full HP, but if you hover over the hero, it's gonna show 38 HP. So the visual green bar doesn't change, but the number changes if you hover over the hero. So by playing Homunculus, people can actually know that you played Homunculus and try and play around it or pick something stronger. So what I generally do, and what you can do to mess with your opponents, is hold the Homunculus in hand until the final second and then play it so they have no time to figure out that you actually played it. Now, this tip extends to demons in general. If you have a weaver or a couple of weavers and people know that, you can hold all your buffs in hand until the final seconds again, so people cannot guess how big your weavers are, how many demons you've played, and then like try and judge how strong you are. So these are again small things, but worth considering. The next tip is something I do a lot, but I've never heard anyone share this or talk about it, so I don't know how common it is, but generally you want to position from big to small. Everyone knows the basic positioning. Again, I have a full guide on it, which you can check right here, but sometimes I put weaker stuff in front of my stronger stuff, and that is when they have a Deathrattle. Let's say you have a Imprisoner or a Ring Matron, but they have lower stats than your other taunts. I still rather put them early, because they are gonna summon small dudes and they can act like extra bumpers. We like to play bumpers early because they can get rid of shields of opponents. These taunts are pretty big, they're gonna die, and then summon small dudes that can maybe bump shields. While if you put them in the back, they're gonna summon small dudes, so your small dudes never get value. They just die into bigger stuff, right? But if you put your Deathrattles earlier, they can actually still serve a purpose. So that's why I'd like valuing Deathrattle units or reborn units earlier than my big stats sometimes if I know my opponent is going to have divine shields that I might want to bump. Also, quick reminder, if this is your first time on the channel, then you can subscribe if you want to catch more guides, more Battlegrounds content. This ranges from hero guides to simple tips to gameplay, everything in between. Tip number 3, I don't think this is too uncommon, but I think this is something that people undervalue a lot. If you're in a top 3 situation, then you can actually just predict who your next couple opponents are going to be. I mean, there's only 2 opponents, but you can predict when you're going to face your next opponent, when you're going to face a ghost most of the time, and that way you can set up for optimal plays. So what you can do is, if you know you're not gonna get first place, you can try to counter one opponent specifically. If you know that in 2 turns they're gonna face one person that you could beat with Ghoul, for example, you can already buy the Ghoul and attack against him. Like, you can judge that, oh, next fight I'm not gonna die, but I'm gonna be at like 5 HP. The fight after that I'm gonna face a ghost so I can level up, and the fight after that I'm gonna face a guy that I can probably beat. So stuff like that, you can literally map out what every turn is gonna look like and try to set yourself up for the best situation possible. Should you level? Should you look for specific things? How do you win against this opponent in this many rounds? Is the other guy gonna kill the other guy? Do you not get to face a ghost? Like, all these things are just things you can most of the time already know beforehand. Now, not always. If it's just a top 3 scenario, it's still random at first, but I've had top 3 games where it just goes on for 5 rounds. I just know in 5 rounds I can't beat the double Caligos, so I just level up and I start looking for the spores and stuff like that. So this is a very important late game thing to know about. Number 4, I don't know how much of a tip this is, because you can't just instantly apply this like the previous things, but this is something that is really helpful and I think is one of the best skills to have if you want to improve in Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and that is building a card library in your head. So that might seem like a lot, trying to memorize all the units, but the more you play, the more you know what units are on what tier and what the good units are on what tier. That's the most important thing. Know the best units for every tribe on every tier. And let me explain why, because yeah, sure, you can know all the cards, but what's the big benefit of this? First of all, it's going to save you a lot of time. So what I do a lot of stream, in case you've never been there, is before I even make any plays, I level or roll or whatever, I just think out loud and I say all the units that I want to find. Jug, Module, is it a Hydra? Do I need Lightfang? Would you take Leapers? Would you take Menaces? Maybe you're just looking for Houndmaster. Like, what are the things you are looking for? And by knowing all the cards that you want to look for, you know whether it's worth to level or stay down. Because a lot of people ask, I don't know if I should level, should I be greedy here, should I play for tempo, is it better to go for this triple? So again, Just list all the units that you want to find, and based on that you can make decisions early on. Looking for lookouts, triple, Toxfin, another Arm of Empire, Argus, maybe even Kiraji. What else am I looking for? For pirates, not really much. Max. The dragon would be good. The 3/6 dragon, Draconid. For beasts, also not much. You can already do this a turn in advance, so a lot of people rope because they're making simple decisions like should you level, and then they take 50 seconds, and then the last 20 seconds they don't have enough time to roll and look for the good stuff. This is gonna save you a lot of time, it's gonna make your turns easier, and you can just spam roll until you hit those exact units that you're set out to find. So again, this takes time, you can't just learn all the units like on a night. Maybe you can if you're like really smart. So in conclusion, just learn all the units or all the good units on every tier, because it's going to help you with decisions for leveling, rolling, if you should look for triples. It's going to make your turns faster. It just helps with pretty much every aspect in the game if you just know most of the important units at every tier. Next up is a secret hidden technique. So if you got a coiler and you want to do someone double boat every single time, you can actually just perform a demonic ritual right before the fight. You can call upon Bob and I don't know where I'm going with this joke. Anyway, the real tip, number 5, is to, instead of learning how to get more first places and play the good competitions, to learn how to turn bad games into top 4s. This is the biggest MMR saver that you can possibly have. I realized this yesterday on stream. I had so many bad low roll games and I was still able to just get 5th and 4th place, while I thought those were going to be in 8th or 7th place for sure. So I like barely lost MMR while low rolling Bob gave me nothing, just because I was able to keep a cool head and play for tempo. While everyone knows what to do when you roll double Kalios. Everyone knows what to do when you have Macaw Golden early on. Everyone, almost everyone at least, can make a high roll work into an easy top 2. There's no reason to learn how to get better at what's already good. You should put all your time into learning how to lose less, if that makes sense. Learn tempo builds, learn how to stabilize, learn to stay down, and what the best way is to survive and shoot for a top 4. Because people are just like, oh, my opponent has double Caligos and I don't, I guess I'm gonna lose. Sure, yeah, you're gonna lose, you're not gonna get first place because you can't high roll every game. Every game is gonna be won by one high roll in the lobby. So if you can't be that one high roller in the lobby, be one of the few low rollers in the lobby that actually outperforms the other low rollers. Like, I hope I'm making sense. This might sound pretty stupid, but because just lose less forehead, just lose less and win more games. But it's about losing less hard, minimizing the damage and MMR losses that you gain for bad games. Yeah, if you high roll, congrats, those are the first place games. You don't have to learn that. So I chose these 5 tips because they're advanced. So if you're starting out, you're like, this is not really gonna help me, probably not. I would again suggest that you learn more basic stuff. But if you're looking to push to the next level, yeah, I think apply these in your games and you're gonna see results. Most tips I give are just like, do this, or this is the right play. Some of these are more subjective, like learn to turn bad games into less worse games. The homunculus one is pretty straightforward, but also learning to predict the top 3 battles, stuff like that. These are all small things that you will get control over the more that you try this out. So once again, real quick, hold demons in hand until the last second so you mess with your opponents. Value putting Deathrattle or reborn units earlier, even though they're not the biggest stats, because they can function as more bumpers. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Be smarter about the final battles when you're in the top 3. Don't just do the same stuff over and over, but do specific counters and stuff like that. Try to memorize all the most important cards on every tier for every tribe, and do a lot of thinking ahead of time so your decisions become easier and faster. Learn how to perform a demonic ritual to have better coilers, and learn how to not let tilt get to you. Everyone low rolls, but how to minimize the damage that you're gonna take on your MMR. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I don't know how this is gonna do, because usually I do basic advice and tips like that. I want to do something a bit more advanced here. So if you like this, let me know down below, or if you have any tips yourself or want to talk about one of these tips, because I know some of these might be a little bit more complex than I make them seem. Again, I always read everything down below. I'd love to go into the discussion. Thank you for watching. See you next time, and good luck on the Battlegrounds.